Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know I talk one thing, and that's cases. We talk a lot about cases because they're a really good commodity. Ideally, usually with these rare cases, they're decreasing in supply. The demand is staying relatively constant or decreasing, but that means we got a significantly lowering supply at all times. But I've just got a very important graph that's going to be extremely influential to what we're seeing for the future of this area. Based off what we're seeing for this graph, I think it's very likely that cases at a bare minimum are going to stay at the prices they're at now, but I think it's very possible they're going to be increasing. Now, talking about the past of this area, we've actually just seen an increase for cases. Actually, not too long ago, just a couple months, we saw a rather massive run up for a lot of these cheaper rare cases. Usually they went up about 40 to 50%. They lost a little bit, of course, and then this is kind of something we saw translated over to the general market. A lot of these older, more expensive rare cases did see some price increases as well. Not as massive, obviously. They've got a lot more stable supply, and therefore they're a little bit more expensive. It's hard for them to get that percentage gain, but they did see some pretty strong increases for them as well. Now, cases are at the highest price point we've ever seen in the history of CS2 and CSGO, but we also got to look at some other things, like the active duty rotation is currently at the most expensive time in the history of this game. It's not just rare cases, it's not just discontinued cases, everything is at the highest price point we've pretty much ever seen. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with their exclusive new reward system, with a reward of up to $50 today when you're using code MASTER. They have mastered the skins game, offering one of the largest selections of skins if you're looking to trade out your old ones, one of the best rates in the market if you're trying to sell off instantly, and it's completely safe. And they've got their own buying page, which is offering a massive 40% discount on every single skin they have. So what are you waiting for? Claim your exclusive up to $50 rewards by using code MASTER on SkinSwap. Now, getting into why it matters, there's a lot of different graphs here that we're going to be going over. The first one is this right here. This is the total case supply rate of change. It's extremely important to learn how many cases are coming into the game, how many cases are going out, because theoretically, if this number is below 0, we're going to be decreasing the amount of total cases out there. And as you can see, we have just dipped back down into the negative count. Now, this is extremely important because that means our current total case supply is going down, which, as we can see from this graph right here, is 100% correct in what's happening by these estimates. Once again, these are estimates, but it's extremely important that whenever this happens, we're usually seeing increased demand inside of the game. We cannot supply it at our current rate, and therefore prices tend to have a very strong potential to go up and have this potential with them. Now, I want to make it very clear, this is not something that's an exact one-to-one. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen this exact second, but it's a consistent trend that we see whenever we get into the deficit. There's usually a period of growth that comes afterwards, not immediately, but definitely afterwards. And it's very important when we look at one other graph right here that we're going to connect it all together, and that's this one. This is basically the breakdown. As you can see, the red line is going up increasingly quickly. It's extremely important that you realize this is the amount of cases consumed. It doesn't include those purchasable cases, but look at the drastic difference between just a couple months ago in December compared to now, where we saw double the supply coming in compared to the amount unboxed. Now we've got more unboxed than what we've got for the supply. It's extremely important that you realize that cases are a hot commodity right now, and I don't see that stopping. Now let's talk about prices that come along with this. First up, we gotta talk about our cheaper rare cases. Specifically, we've seen a little bit of a tone down for these. Honestly, some of these are starting to approach the $1.30-ish range when we're talking about our Prismas, just because of everything going on. And honestly, I'm not too worried about this. We're going to see some little pullback, and we've seen a majority of the growth already happen here. I definitely think it's a really optimal time to get into some of these cheaper rare cases. Obviously, it's a little bit hard when we look a year ago and see the price point and how much it has raised since then, but you gotta realize the supply on these cases is going down increasingly quickly. We'll talk about that in a quick second. And overall, it's a very solid market because we're never going to see these cases come back. They're 1% of the drop pool, and honestly, even at that, they're basically non-existent. Right now, we're seeing everything overshadowed by the gallery, the fever, these cases that are in the armory that people aren't really sure what to do, but that's where they're making the majority of their case investments, and that's where they're putting their money. I think that's a really strong area for appeal, but I don't think it's actually going to produce much for results, especially not right now. We don't know when they're going to get removed. I like the gallery case very, very long term, but that's obviously in the hopes it gets removed. These rare cases, they're guaranteed what you're going to get. You're going to be getting a case that's not going to be coming back. You can't guarantee profit, obviously, but when we look at these, they're very solid options. Even some of the more expensive options, we're talking about your chromas, your gammas, your revolvers, they're very solid options. They've got strong unboxing numbers. They're just going to take time, and I think a lot of people are really scared that they're going to stop increasing in price, but this is legitimately why you can make so much money with CS investing. People are not really paying that much attention. They're paying enough attention to know that case prices are going up, but they don't realize why they're going up. They don't look at the data, and therefore, if you use that to make an investment decision, you're going to be putting yourself in a very significant advantage. Obviously, it's very dependent on the game not dying, but if you're interested, this is a huge opportunity, and I definitely think it's something you should be capitalizing on. Now, talking about the supply of these cases, there's a lot of information. I want to make it very clear this is mostly estimates, but starting off with our active duty, I think it's a terrible opportunity to get into these active duty cases unless they're at a super cheap price point because of how massive the supply is. Look at how many cases are out there for each of these ones in the active duty. It's going to take a while for them to eat through it and actually become a worthwhile investment. Look at the snakebite, look at the clutch right here. They have had a massive supply and yet they have gone up a little bit, but they're still struggling in their price point. They haven't seen any massive growth, and that's just because of the supply being as massive as it is. Now getting on into our cheaper rare cases, this is where we can find some really strong advantages in the supply area. Obviously this is an estimate once again, but you can see that the supply on these doesn't seem too massive. It seems like we're actually kind of running out of these cases, and the data backs that up with how expensive these cases have gotten over the past couple of years. They've gone up in price tremendously. The supply has gone down tremendously, and it's in a really prime position that I think honestly in the next couple of years we're going to see the majority of cases start to spike up in price if they have not already. Now although we've been focusing on the supply, the demand is actually a really important part as well. The supply needs to be going down, and if the demand is not strong enough, there are still cases coming in for these, and I'll make that very clear. I would highly suggest you check out the unboxing numbers. Make sure you realize what case is working for you. Obviously all of your cheaper rare cases and these cases that we've been talking about today are going to be going down because the demand is much stronger than the small supply coming in, but if you're going for a little bit more of a unique case, you need to make sure that it's got enough demand. The unboxing numbers are perfect for this, and they're going to be giving you an outlook of what you can expect in the future from this case if people are really going to still want it. Now in my opinion, what is the best case to buy right now? I think you've got a really good option in two different areas. If you're looking on a little bit of a lower, more conservative budget, I think the snakebite or the clutch are going to be great options. I personally would go with the snakebite because it's significantly cheaper. You're going to be able to get a lot of cases, but it's going to take a lot of time for these to get to a massive price point. But if you can wait that out, you're going to be getting in at a super low value. Otherwise, I think hands down the best option is going to be your Prisma 1 or your Prisma 2. These two cases have been dominant in every aspect when we look about the statistics of a case. They've got a huge unboxing numbers, the supply isn't absolutely massive, and the demand definitely shows people are consistently looking after this case. It's got a lot to go ahead and get through for its supply, relatively speaking, but I don't think that's really been an issue in the past, and it's not going to be one in the future in my personal opinion. Obviously make your own investment decisions. I've got my full video with all my thoughts on cases right here if you want to check it out. Now coming to the big question that everyone always wants to know, should you be buying right now? Well, first up, let's look at the unboxing numbers. The unboxing numbers are on an increasing trajectory, and although that is very solid, that doesn't guarantee that growth is going to immediately happen. And that's the big area I want to focus in on here, is there's nothing guaranteed when it comes to investing in cases or any investment for CS2. I think if you're going to make an investment, cases are probably your most solid and most sure way of trying to reach a profit inside of this area, but it's not guaranteed by any means. Cheaper rare cases have been historically one of the best investments that the majority of people can get in on, and I think that's probably something that's going to remain relatively the same. Just use data to make your investing decision. But that's pretty much all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.